to the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark, and today is Wednesday, April 20th, 2016. And I want to thank you for joining us. On Monday, we did our interview with Libby Halevi, which was kind of a mix-up because that's usually our St. Louis interview days. And so we have on the line again Rose Eichholtz, who is with the Missouri Accountability Project. And she's a citizen activist, as you can hear. She's also a mother. So thank you. I'm going to let her speak right away in case her baby gives up on us. So welcome, Rose.
Hi, Lonnie. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for our small Midwestern hub of Radways.
Yeah, well,
and thank you for having the tolerance to listen to my little one.
That's all right. I mean, for goodness sakes, your baby's the reason that we're all doing this is for our children. And actually, I'm doing it for you because you're super young. You're like, what, 22 years old, 23?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, I could not imagine being 22 years old, having had a baby, and realizing, like, what you guys have to live through. So tell me, would you mind... Well, first, what would you like to share with our listeners, since we may have limited time? What would you like to share with the listeners about your experience or what you know about St. Louis?
Well, I personally was completely shocked. I think it's really important that we check in on these things, because previously, when I learned about this from Drew Kuhn, I had no idea. I grew up in the same neighborhood my entire life. I never lived more than 30 miles away from this landfill cluster at any point, and I never knew anything. I was 16 when the fire started.
When did Drew tell you about it? When did you know about it?
In 2013 or 2014, actually, was when I had moved back here from the West, and he told me about it, and I wrote it off as Drew was just an exemplary citizen. You know, I thought he was doing too much. He is so on top of everything. His petition and his knowledge of how to ascertain documents. And it was after I got pregnant that I started to pay more attention, because the whole anxiety of being 20 years old and having a kid, and I was worried just about raising her in America in general, because of all the bigotry and the violence here that is just kind of misdirected, especially in St. Louis. Underlying areas. Radways was never on my radar, but it was under my nose and probably the biggest issue the whole time.
So, I mean, really, realistically, you grew up there, you didn't even know about it until you were pregnant with your baby? I mean, you knew about it, you found out about it probably, sounds like right before you got pregnant, but you didn't understand the severity of it until you actually had a baby and realized, like, oh my God, this might actually affect my baby.
Yeah, I just didn't care. You know, I was a young, reckless child, and
wow. Well, thank goodness that you love your child enough that you're willing to get active. Because, frankly, that's what motivates me. Is I love my children. Like, I am not going to just. To me, St. Louis is the entire United States, and it is the can of worms that has been created is everywhere in the United States, not just St. Louis.
I can't even imagine losing St. Louis, though, to a national repository or something.
That's what they're talking about, correct?
It's so close to, it's just so close to everything. It's not a huge city, but there are a lot of people here, and there's a lot of history here. Like, I believe the Forest Park is within 10 miles, I believe. So that's where the World's Fair was held in 1904, and it would just be a lot of history gone to the hands of
nuclear. Yes, that I think.
Politics, yeah.
Look, it's not just politics. In my view, this is like, I don't know how you feel. I don't mean to sound radical, but to be honest, it's murder what they're doing. I mean, they know that people are dying. They know that something bad. They know the fire is on fire. It's that fire. If it's not at the nuclear waste, I personally think that it's on fire. I'll just tell you the truth. The way how vague they are, if you listen to their veiled language, they don't know. That's why they can't keep testing it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, in 2015 it was 800 feet, and now it's 200 feet, and I mean,
200 feet.
They weren't even calling it a fire. 6 months ago, they refused to call it a fire.
What's really shocking is they're just like, oh, yeah, it's 200 feet away. Like, that's interesting. I mean...
How are they going to even have room to put a barrier? Like, what kind of... Like,
they're telling us that they're going to take 18 months to put the barrier up, right, Rose? So that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
So, and it's 200... let's do the math here. A year ago, it was 1,000 feet away, and now it's 200 feet away. In 18 months, the fire is going to be at the nuclear waste using their. It's really hard for me not to swear. Using their language, I swear. Well, you don't know this, Rose, because I don't think you listen to my show. But I swear. It's actually very hard for me to not swear. One of my friends that I went to go see in December is shocked at all my swearing. So she's like, I can't listen to your show. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make an effort not to swear.
In like mommy groups, like I go to local mom meetups, and I just slip up.
What do these people say when you go to the mommy groups? Do you talk to them about the radiation and about the landfill and about the exposure that you guys are all having?
Yeah, well, like they're two of the primary trainings that I've attended here in St. Louis are facilitated by nonprofit organizations. So, Roller Chair League International isn't supposed to allow other organizations to float on them. They're not supposed to take things like that into accordance. But I had asked the leader before I was going to a car show with Ben, because that's what he likes to do, to go to car shows. And I was handing out flyers for the October Just Moms meeting. And I had a bunch of them, and I was like, let me take these to these breastfeeding moms that congregate because they breastfeed. His meeting place was just estimating 8 miles away. If that, probably not even that far. But it was funny because she kind of gave me the floor, and I actually ended up sitting there for 30 minutes trying to explain these to people who had never really been introduced with this knowledge other than the ones that had older kids maybe got letters sent home about shelter in place at that time. And
do people understand the exposure, what happens with it, and how it affects us? Have they seen?
No, I don't think they even understand that there is just uranium and thorium hanging out in a quarry.
Well, have you
There's
seen
a lot
any
of
of those
apathy.
like little Google? You can go to Google Images and you can just type in effects of radiation on the body, and they pop up like these little maps. Have people seen that? Like where they really understand that this is a silent killer. This is a slow seed. Like all of you in St. Louis have been affected. This is why Dr. Caldecott was just spitting nails, and Dr. Bob Alvarez, when they went there to the Adams next door, I've never seen either one of them as angry, because everyone there is affected. If not you, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren.
Right. I mean, just because I don't get cancer doesn't mean my great-grandkids won't have.
And it's not just cancer. This is the
genetic
thing that
malfunctions
diabetes is one of the first markers of radiation exposure. Right. So is sterility, inability, and it's not, and odd birth defects, learning disorders, things like that, things that affect the brain.
Right.
None of this stuff is being tracked or counted or respected. And if you say anything, this is the weird thing. And I think St. Louis is kind of the marker. St. Louis is our Fukushima. Because you guys aren't even allowed to talk about
all the waste is here.
Well, you're not allowed to talk about it. In Fukushima in Japan, people aren't allowed to talk about radiation. Just like in St. Louis, you guys really aren't allowed to talk about it. You're being exposed at a very high level, at very outrageous rates. It's like it's beyond comprehension. Do you think that Claire McCaskill or Senator Roy Blunt would come and live in your neighborhood for 3 months to study this place and say,
okay? I'd be amazed if they got 3 weeks, but...
Well, Rose, let me ask you this. What does it feel, what actions are what are the citizens there? I know we have the Just Moms groups, we have the Coldwater Creek Facts, but are there other groups like, say, other moms or other organizations or students that are actively engaging? What's it like on the street there in St. Louis?
There are new splinter groups of Just Moms popping up every day, but honestly, there's a lot of strange politics going on between the two Just Moms and a lot of street groups, and I'm not really sure where it stems from, but it does seem to be halting the process a little bit, at least in terms of PR. The Missouri Accountability Project is going to be at Nursery Festival, hoping to pass out packets of seeds, sunflower seeds and other flower seeds. To primarily sunflower seeds because they are beneficial to us to continue radiation.
So they're beneficial to you.
To inform people.
Have you noticed any flower mutations or anything like that on your plants out there? Or like
I haven't. Actually, I have like a 40-year-old garden in my backyard because my grandmother planted it, and everything comes back every year. We have a lot of crazy weeds here, but which actually I wouldn't think would be the case when all the rain has Roundup in it, but I guess that's another topic.
Yes, but I mean like flowers.
I think mostly where I live. I think where I live, a bigger threat, like immediately, is the landfill fire. That's why I smell outside my house, so it makes me close the windows in my house. It's been like wonderful 70, 80 degrees all week, and I just want to have my windows open. And sometimes you just can't do it because it's disgusting. You don't want to turn your air on because it's the same principle.
So you can't turn on your air conditioning? Because
I suppose I will when it gets really hot because I have to think about the safety of my child, but I don't want to. I would rather have my windows open in general anyways. But kind of both options are pretty bad when the wind is blowing this way from the landfill.
Yeah, because either way, you're
It
sucking in
smells
the air.
so
from
terrible.
Does it?
There's a particular part of the highway that, like, you just can't breathe. Like,
What
it
does
hurts
it
your
smell?
eyes.
What does it smell like? What does it smell?
Trash. It smells like burning trash.
Yeah. That's disgusting.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's terrible. Like, sewage and burnt trash. It's really bad, and it hurts your eyes. Like, I've never ever felt like my eyes were being sanded before. It was a very interesting sensation.
It hurts your eyeballs, like not just, it doesn't make your eyes sting, it hurts your eyeballs. Now, does it affect your baby? Does she cry? Does she cry if she goes outside?
No, I try to generally catch it and don't let her, like, if we're driving, turn the vents off and close everything.
So you guys go from your house to your car, in other words?
Yeah, it's usually not that to that extent where I live, but you can usually smell it sometimes in, like, the early hours of the morning and, like, around dusk.
Wow. I'm sorry you have to live through that. That sounds horrible.
I mean, I just wish Republic would fucking take some accountability.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it, about Republic, is they're being protected by every elected official, frankly. Because
right, yeah, and they're
even the ones who say
money.
they're on your side, they're not suing Republic Services. They're not.
Right. I mean, Costner is working on it, but I think they, honestly, I don't know anything about litigation, but I think they might be bigger than the state, which
who is
doing them right now is Attorney General Costner of the state.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, because even if he wins, what are they going to do? I mean, really, because of the Price-Anderson Act.
Well, they've already released their statement saying the fire is going to burn until 2024, and
so
it's a joke. They treat this whole community like it's just a joke.
Well, how do they know that it's going to only burn till 2024? Did they tell you that?
I guess that was their estimate on how long it will take to, I guess, smolder itself out.
Do they know how much is down there that's on fire? Do they know the amount that's on fire?
No, I don't believe so.
So then how could they estimate how long it'll take to burn itself out?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. They cut the landfill on fire.
I'm telling you, you know what, Rose? I think you guys need to occupy the EPA. Seriously, people need to just go sit and park themselves at their offices and tell them to just get a heart and stop being inhumane. This whole thing, the NRC, it's just infuriating to me, to be honest. Like, when I talk to you guys now, the longer I'm talking to you, the more, I mean, it's just inhumane. This is an outrageous situation. That you guys have to live in a place where you have to shut your windows.
Congressman's wife works for the EPA. We can't.
Okay, let's explain that one. Okay, for those listeners who haven't heard this one, explain that one. The congressman's wife works for the EPA, so he is what? Explain that.
Frank Pallone in New Jersey is a representative, and he's holding up HR 4100. He has been holding it up for like at least 2 months too. It's nothing new. Personally, I've called his office about 10 times. That's a big thing that I tell people when they ask me, well, Rose, what can I do? Like the random people in the grocery store I talk to about this, I tell them to blow up politicians' phones.
Yes. And I agree with you, because if enough people gave him some pressure, then we could actually he would refuse to just continue to be such. You know, he's basically what's this? Frank Pallone sits on what it's called the Environmental and Public Works Committee. Is that what it's called?
I believe so. I can tell you.
Yeah. The committee. And I mean, seriously, his wife works for the EPA, and they are just
refusing. For like the Women's and Girls Environmental Connection Committee or something.
That's the ironic part. Yes, his wife actually heads the environmental protection of women and girls. And she is blocking. I just thought that was so ironic because women and girls are, frankly, the most affected by nuclear radiation. They're the most easily. So here's Frank Pallone's phone number for all of you who think you can do something and don't know if it'll work or you're not sure. But you know what? Even if you think it may not work, please do call anyways, because you know what? We need him to sweat beans, and we cannot let him be comfortable, even if he's been paid to and refuse to change his position. We got to keep poking him in the eye. So here,
it's a very simple phone call.
That's
all you have to do is call him. It's 4100. You can even call him a dick if you want. I don't really think it matters.
Here's his phone number.
I think that will affect it.
202-225-4671. That's 202-225-4671. That's his district office in New Jersey. He's from District 6 in New Jersey. He's a Democrat, which is kind of a shock. This is how bipartisan the nuclear liars are. They don't care which side of the party. This is why we have Republicrats. This is why we had in Missouri. There is rigging. The DNC allowed rigging of the machines. In Arizona, they allowed rigging of the machines. Last night, what happened? They're saying over 175,000 people were purged from the voter rolls of potential Bernie voters were purged from the rolls last night, at least 175,000. So we now have selections.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is ridiculous. In Arizona...
Where is the bullshit legislation protecting that? Like, who's not going to jail and why?
Well, you know what? Is anybody going to do anything about it? Just like this nuclear thing, Rose. We're talking about the facts, but are the masses of people getting out in the street and saying, hell no, you're not stealing our vote? But no, they're not. They're just blabbing on, listening to MSNBC and Fox News tell us how Hillary Clinton won New York and Bernie ought to quit and support Hillary. And, basically don't. We have fascism. And unfortunately, the people in St. Louis are really the first wide-scale known experimental victims, in my view. I mean, Frank Pallone ought to burn in hell for what he's doing right now, frankly.
I mean, exactly. It's going to take like 10 years after the transfers test for them to start anyways. Why are we wasting time?
So explain what you're talking about. Explain from the process of what passing this bill 4100 out of the committee so that it can get passed by the Congress, because the Senate has already passed the sister bill. Mm-hmm. All we needed to do is come out of committee at the Congress, have Frank Pallone say, okay, we'll let it go. Congress will vote. We know it's going to pass. Congress will pass it, the president can pass it into law, and then what happens, Rose?
Well, I believe it takes so long because FinJab has limited resources, primarily. This is kind of out of my realm of knowledge, but, they have a relatively small budget. I think that is where...
Yes.
If I could just be kind of candid for a moment, I don't take sides in this local... divide. But I think that is where a lot of the animosity from the moms to the Coldwater Creek and vice versa comes from, is that there is a misconception about the Coldwater Creek activists not supporting a food drop transfer for Westlake landfill.
Okay, so this is news to me.
I don't think that's the case.
This is interesting. So us on the outside, we don't know these kind of internal conflicts, but that's interesting because I think from what I can see, I've known that there is an issue about the money. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah.
And so what, they think there's not enough money being allocated to do all of it, so some people want it to stay there?
Right. Well, I don't think that's actually the case. I think that is, I looked at the situation from afar and thought this, and this is what I think now because it kind of makes sense. kind of thing. I don't think that the Coldwater Creek activists are not in support of a fish route transfer, but it will take time, and they have a relatively small budget, and they have been working on Coldwater Creek since 2003. Like, that's 13 years, and they're still, finding new contamination sites, and they're cleaning up, starting up on new areas. And we have a lot of citizen pressure. Someone, Freedom of Information Act, commissioned Foods Wrap, the local St. Louis office, for documents, and now they can't really communicate with the community anymore under the Freedom of Information Act. They're on a gag order now until they get the activists who chose to commission them. Or
who's under the gag order? Now, who's under the gag order?
Foods Wrap St. Louis
is saying
so they're contracted at Westlake.
They're saying they're under a gag order because somebody has asked for some Freedom of Information Act information.
I haven't looked into the actual legal use of it, but to my knowledge, they can't. They used to have Food Wrap Oversight Committee meetings. Those are what I believe cannot happen now, as it stands right now. It's not really a huge deal because I believe the next one would have been in August. But it's a hindrance. The division and frankly the pettiness that's occurring between the two groups. It really, it doesn't make sense.
This is what I think.
I think outside both of them.
I think the system is set up to create this kind of dissension.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely want to create enemies. You have the coalition to keep us safe, or as the Missouri Accountability Project like to call them, the coalition to keep us sick. Spreading propaganda. They have quotes from Ann Zur and St. Charles representatives, Billy Kidd in Jeff City. They have small town mayors saying, "I don't want this shipped through my neighborhood." It's like it's already going through your neighborhood. Food Wrap has already been working in St. Louis for 13 years.
So, Rose, explain to people how close you live and really how you, because really I commend you for your clarity on this one and your ability to really see through this at such a tender age. Like, I look at you as just such a young adult, and I'm really impressed with you. So would you share with people, like, how long you've lived in Coldwater Creek and how you knew Drew? This was an interesting part of the story that I think I glazed over.
Well, I never lived near Coldwater Creek. I don't think I ever played in it or anything. I grew up in Hazelwood. The very end of Coldwater Creek, I believe, just barely kisses Hazelwood. We live about 2.8 miles from North Quarry, which is on the Rock Road. And
North Quarry is the Westlake landfill.
Yes.
Okay.
South Quarry is Gresham landfill. And Drew was actually my neighbor as a child. Like, I met him when I was 3.
Wow. And
we grew up together.
Okay. Look, this is really amazing.
That's why I'm always so kind of like shocked that he's such an exemplary citizen. I grew up with this goofy kid, so it's a little different.
Well, I have not met him in person. I've talked with him several times, and we've interviewed a couple times. He's coming back actually on the radio show soon, so he'll be interviewing soon. Yeah, because he's very well spoken. Very well spoken. Yeah, very organized. Yeah, good, clear thoughts. But this is so. Look, as an outsider, I'm just going to be frank. Like, I think St. Louis should be abandoned. I'll be really honest. The more I learn about it, like the lies, the complete lies, and I know that we have lost a lot of history already. They have robbed us of a lot of things already, but to continue to expose people to this. So you guys disagree with that train of thought. You think it can be remediated, correct? Like you guys are willing to fight for it. That's part of the conflict going on. Some people want this stuff moved and the land remediated, and some people want to just be moved out right away, right? Is that part of the conflict?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that this area can be saved. There's a lot of space here, and very closely together, like the proximity that realistically would be abandoned is just it's cityscape, it's suburbs. There's a lot of people living here. And property values are only getting worse. It's really not fair to the homeowners to say, well, sorry, the EPA or public services fucked your property value so hard that we're gonna offer you like 50% of what your house is worth 10 years ago.
If that. Look what they did in New Orleans. People got 10 to 15% of their house value. When they forced the people out of the Ninth Ward, they got nothing. They basically, I mean, you know what happened in New Orleans, right? After Katrina, when the people in the Ninth Ward, their insurance wouldn't pay, they told the people of New Orleans, well, you know, you have 90 days to evacuate or whatever, and then they sued them, and the government, they said you have to buy them out. They took the property and gave them very small amounts. So they're not going to pay you guys. I read that legislation. Yeah. They're going to value your houses. Let's be clear. Nadal, your state senator, she's a senator, right, or representative?
Yes.
Nadal, who is running for, I think, another house, the House of Congress, correct?
I'm not too sure. I've only really heard things about it. I've never really listened to it too much. I'm not really a fan of SB 600. I read it; it made no sense to me. I kind of tried to put it out of my head.
Yeah, she wrote that SB 600.
She's requisitioning. Yeah, she was requisitioning more money than our state's entire budget for food drop to come to Westlake. It's like, where are you getting this?
From the federal government. She's counting on the federal government and the DOE doing what they have to do.
They're not going to bail us out. They sold the waste to melon crops that ended up in the landfill on the post site.
They do have a legal responsibility because it was illegally handled. It is their legal. I mean, that's from my reading of the law. They're saying they don't have it, but I've read some documents. I think that they are legally. I think that's the legal fight, and I think that's why she put it in there. The thing that didn't make sense, SB 600 for our listeners is a state bill that's been proposed in Missouri State House to basically buy out everybody within 1 mile. Is it 1 mile of the?
I thought it was 1 to 3.
1 to 3, and it's around the Westlake landfill, right? And I think that
encompasses.
But what they're going to do, this is the part that did not make sense to me, is on the buyout, the government's going to appraise people's houses, the fair market value, within the last 3 months. So if your house is right next to, like some people's house has counts of, the EPA has measured 300 counts per minute. What do you think that's going to do to an assessor? If the assessor knows that your house has, you know, the legal standard in the United States is what?
3 months? How is that market value assurance? How is 3 months a fair
well, because that's
what the fair market value would be.
With the problem with that I have is they ought to be giving you guys the fair market value of your house at the height of the housing boom, because realistically, you know, you guys need to be remediated like the soil. The people in St. Louis deserve to come out of this not like victims of a war shredded with nothing on their back. You know what I mean? We're going to help you move out and give you. And the problem with the legislation is also that if the two parties disagree with each other, they're going to set up a council to set up the housing, and the person's house has to be sold. Like, the language of the bill is kind of crazy. If once you participate in the program, you're super screwed, from what I could read in that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it just didn't make much.
It didn't make
sense.
a lot of sense. It just, to me, I read it myself. So what I hear from you saying is that SB 600, while it was intended to help, it's also causing some conflict. This is why you say it's becoming a political football.
Yeah. Well, it was just the fact that there was someone trying to gain support for SB 600 to the Coldwater Creek activists, and the Coldwater Creek activists have nothing to support there. It has nothing to do with Coldwater Creek at all. Like,
well,
nothing.
This is the ironic part. It does, in that the Westlake landfill, it came from Coldwater Creek. It's the same nuclear radiation. Well, yeah. Just because it's been buried 3 or 4 or 5 miles away from Coldwater Creek does not make it a separate. I understand that logic.
Take her shirt off.
But you guys consider Coldwater Creek and Westlake landfill in the community. Those are two distinct community activisms, in other words.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is the same goal. We want our city to be safe. We want our kids not to die. We don't want to have to abandon our homes. Like, this isn't a wealthy area. It's not these people that live here. I mean, I know most of my neighbors where I live right now in my grandparents' old house. Most of these people have lived here for 40 and 50 years. Mm-hmm. They don't want to leave right now. They want to die in their houses, I guess. I know it sounds really morbid, but
I hate to say it.
I don't want to leave right now either. We had this plan, and we were trying to put it to good use. I don't really feel comfortable saying that I can commit to living here for 5 years anymore, though. We're coming up on the 1st year in June of moving in here, and I feel constant guilt about subjecting my family to this.
Well, you know what my response to that is? I have a spare. You can sleep in my house. You guys can just leave the city if you have no place to go and come to the Northwest, because actually...
Oh, well, you are so sweet.
Honestly,
you are.
That's
my partner, Ben, has literally been talking about that since I told him. I got off the phone with you the first time we spoke, and I was like, this super nice radical lady offered us her house.
I
like,
did
what?
actually do.
I've always wanted to live in Oregon.
The first time we talked on the phone, I basically, because to be very frank with you, if I lived east of the Mississippi, I would move away. Like, it's just the whole thing east of the Mississippi is a toxic stew. I mean, it's right. Unconscionable, but that happens to be how it is.
I mean, technically, and frankly,
we're all in it. This is why I've had to have personally, I've had to have an attitude adjustment. You guys really are us. When people say, wow, I'm so amazed that I'm shocked that the rest of the country is not flipped out. This is one of the most egregious nuclear accidents that we have had in our country, and it is being ignored. You live 3 miles away from excuse me? Go ahead.
Flint happened at a really interesting time for us here in St. Louis, because we've had this big boom of people becoming interested because they were sending letters home with kids to school, and then Flint came up, and, that is just classic EPA fuckery. I can't even call it anything else. It's fuckery.
You mean to do what? To send home the little flyers?
What the EPA just did to Flint in general, not treating their water so it didn't corrode their pipes.
Oh, you mean Flint, Michigan? Well,
right. Yeah, now the EPA wasn't responsible for the letters that got sent home with children about sheltering in place. That was the county, and then the schools were just trying. They re-released their radioactive emergency plans from 2014. They re-released it in September, I believe. And it threw people into a very mild panic.
Oh, so then they stopped doing it, I'm sure.
Well, it's toned down a little bit. I mean, it was definitely a good thing. When that happened, I got like really excited, and I was like, yes, people will finally like start paying attention and use their numbers for what they're worth. And like, it's just.
And then what happened?
The holidays came. It was in October when everybody got riled up, and the holidays came and went, I suppose, and people just get distracted. The Midwest. Wow. The Midwest is a wonderful place to come if you want to be complacent.
If you want to be complacent.
Just not think about anything that's actually important. If you just want to like hang out and watch TV, it's a great place to do it. We have so much to ignore, you know?
You do have so much to ignore. That's the hard thing. You guys actually have to work hard at ignoring it. That's the bizarre part, is like you're living right in there. That it's just beyond comprehension. Like you live less than 3 miles away from a leaking. You can't even open your windows.
Yeah, I mean it's covered with a tarp and some gravel.
What? Tell me that again.
The whole landfill is coated in a tarp and some gravel.
And that they have done nothing to do anything more than that since this has been going on? A tarp and gravel?
I mean, they're pumping out leachate, and there's 2 million gallons of leachate being pumped out of Bridgeton landfill a week.
2 million gallons of what?
Leachate, landfill juice.
Leachate. Okay.
Yes, Leachate.
Leachate. Okay. And that's just the leftover from the landfill. They're pulling it out of there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that's the trash liquid.
So what they're doing is they're moving the trash so that the fire can't keep smoldering. That's their idea, right?
I believe they have to pump the leachate out, because if they didn't pump out the leachate, it would like overfill.
Now, is that leachate completely contaminated with nuclear radiation?
I don't think so, although I can't say whether or not it's actually been tested. I want to say that in November or December, there was talk of testing it, and I know that in November, a bunch of it leaked onto a street where there are houses and families living.
Oh my God.
Thousands of gallons of leachate just rolling down your street. Like, what?
Did any of those people get sick shortly thereafter? These are the kinds of things that go untold.
I can't imagine being around it and like being within like 100 feet of it and not throwing up.
Right, that's right. Yeah, you're right about that. Not getting sick. Wow.
The whole area of people that live within that super close range, for the most part, if they're going to buy it out, they're going to give those people like $10 for their houses.
Yeah, but they'll give them very little. I mean, this is not reading the legislation. This is really there's you can tell people they're like wolves, like sharpening their knives. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
they know they have to do something.
Is going to go far.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is the sad part. It's, they're looking at it, okay, eventually we're going to make a profit. These people's lives, your lives have already been disrupted. Whether there's a buyout or no buyout, your lives have already been disrupted. Period.
Yeah.
Irreparably.
People ask me what my interests are. I'm like, what do you mean? I gotta make some food packets for this information. So I have to inform people of this all the time. Right. It does make me feel really fulfilled. I suppose it's very therapeutic to bring this to people's attention.
Do you guys have flyers that you hand out or little postcards?
Yeah. Our graphic designer, James Orworth, he's very talented. Andrew is very, very skilled when it comes to drumming up body copies and putting information together, and
You guys will
we'll be
have to
at the
send
Earth
me
Day
some of
Festival.
that. We'll have to do a YouTube video on that. If you send me it, I'll do a whole YouTube video on it and post it up to my channel.
Oh, neat.
Because then you can show them I could show them the brochures, because a lot of people really do not understand. And I kind of get this from talking to you over the last hour, that a lot of people in St. Louis don't really understand the threat that they're living in.
Right. I mean, my father is 54.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's not wrong. I hope he doesn't hear this. You tell him the wrong age. And, he grew up in this house that I live in now. He used to ride his bike around the quarry in the 70s. And the waste was dumped there in the 70s. My father was very likely riding his cool old vintage bicycle around a bunch of uncontained radioactive waste.
Wow. Is your dad
as like
healthy?
A 10-year-old? He does have diabetes.
Right. No doubt.
That's one. My grandfather suffered from it too.
Yep, no doubt. That's a signature marker of radiation exposure. Chronic, when they say so-called low level, there is no really good low level. But one of the first things that happens is you get diabetes, because it throws off your system. So, I mean, people need to read Dr. John Goffman's books. I'm going to be reading Dr. Helen Caldicott's book, The New Nuclear Danger. I got permission from her recently. But on my YouTube channel, I read 2 of Dr. John Goffman's books, Poisoned Power, and he wrote a book. I thought it was kind of a joke, but it wasn't a joke. It's called Population Control Through Nuclear Pollution. It was a book warning us, if we do not take care of this problem that we have with the nuclear waste and stop the building of the nuclear reactors, we're going to depopulate the planet, just because we're going to have an unmitigated catastrophe in the making, which is what we're seeing in St. Louis, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know where in the world I could take my family to get away from nuclear waste. Like, where do I go?
South of the equator, I guess. But the downside.
Yeah,
south
I was
of
just thinking Australia. I think they have laws against any
the problem
mining or
with
anything
South
like that.
America is not the nuclear power plants, it's the uranium mining. They're uranium mining, and they're putting repositories of uranium in the sacred lands of the indigenous people, actually, in Australia.
Oh, my God.
Just like they're doing it here. They do the uranium minings. They put all the uranium tailings here on the sacred lands of the indigenous people in the United States. I mean, that's the set. Remember at that symposium, did you go to the Atoms next door?
I was not able to.
Oh. Did you see the video?
I wish I had.
Did you watch the video of it online?
No, I don't think I have yet.
Oh, man, it's awesome. You ought to watch it. I'm actually going to be
cutting
it up. Huh?
Okay, that's what I've been doing the past couple weeks or so. I've been trying to stay up late after Iris goes to sleep, so I can get some time for my own personal sanity. Like, hey, what a great time to catch up on some meetings that I've missed.
Well,
and things of that nature.
You can just, when you go onto the YouTubes, just type in Atoms Next Door, and it'll pop up. And it's an hour long. You can take it in bites, but there's Dr. Helen Caldicott, Dr. Bob Alvarez, and there was a lady there, a woman from the reservation, who stood up and said, you know what, on the reservation we had no idea that it was affecting you people on the outside, because we've been used to this for a long time. And then I started looking into it. It's a very serious problem that we've done, but that seems to be what the nuclear industry does. So.
Yeah.
Well, Rose, we have about 10 minutes left. Is there anything that you'd like our listeners to really know about St. Louis? Like, what can we do? Is there anything we can do from our end? I guess we can call Frank Pallone's office.
Yeah, just talk about it. Talk about it all the time. If you feel so inclined, just tell everybody. I mean, I went to the grocery store. I was looking for a certain homeopathic, they're sold little pills, medicine for Iris because of her elevated lead count. And I ended up having like a 45-minute conversation with the guy that works in like the herbal section. about all of this, and he's like, takes my girlfriend's phone number. She's 8 months pregnant. I'm terrified right now.
Aw.
Like, people really just need to be informed, because it's wrong. It's just wrong to lie to people. I don't know.
Are you guys taking an
iodine?
iodine? Do you take iodine drops every day? Like, do you take iodine?
I don't. I wasn't aware of.
Well, you can take an iodine drop. When we get off the air, I don't know the name of the brand that I take, but I'll find it for you and give it to you. But
okay.
And I'll share it with the listeners off the top of my head. But the people living in St. Louis, you can take iodine, and it basically will absorb the radiation, and it helps your body pass it out. It helps. It helps when you're living exposed to radiation.
I can't believe I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it helps. It's partly what helps. There's a bunch of things that you can do, as it turns out. There's a few sites like there used to be a site, and I haven't gone there in a long time, called Fukushima Facts. That can help you. And I also suggest people go to, there's a bunch of great sites like radcast.org, and there is a site called the nuclearproctologist.org. Yeah, he's Dana Durnford with the Nuclear Proctologist is going to be a guest host with us on Friday. Speaking of Friday, Friday is Earth Day. That's why I wanted him on, because he has done a lot to save the Earth. I am going to be protesting with an anti-nuke activist that came out from New York, Kevin Finnegan, and some students that I've met at school. We're going to be protesting at the media. We're going to go to the television stations, because they will not cover this, so we're going to go to them and we're going to protest. And I'm going to have a sign up. Awesome. I'm going to have a sign up about St. Louis, about them ignoring the worst nuclear disaster in the United States. They're ignoring it right now. So
thank you, Lonnie.
I suggest that people protest. Earth Day was not about us celebrating the Earth. They have turned it into a commercial event. Earth Day was a protest in 1972, I believe, or 73, against nuclear power, about corporate corruption and polluting the planet. We had you know what happened on the first Earth Day protest that happened? I grew up in Hacienda Heights, California, and that's a little suburb of Los Angeles. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The protest happened across the nation at the exact time. It was East Coast 1 o'clock, West Coast 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., all of us left our seats in our high school. Everybody got up out of their seats, and we walked to the grocery store that was about 30 minutes away. Not just the students, the teachers, the administrator, everybody walked out of the classroom. Everybody. Only the janitor stayed at the high school. All the people at the stores, we all protested. In our little suburb, there was like 3,000 people, 4,000 people protesting. And that happened all across. That happened all across the United States. That shook the establishment. You think Bernie Sanders is shaking the establishment? That shook them when people were willing to get off their asses and leave their work, leave their classes, and go protest and say, no, you're not destroying the planet. That's what the Earth Day protest was about. So,
wow, I never knew that before.
Well,
thank you.
You're welcome. And I hope that we can get this. This is the kind of actions that we need. Timed actions where we do it, everybody en masse. We just walk out and do it. And everybody is committed. Because if we give them our voice, they will listen. The problem is they're not going to listen to 10, 15, 20 people. I kind of felt sorry for the St. Louis moms going to meet with Gina McCarthy, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Gee, I'd really love to help you. Yeah, I know it's really hard. The very next week, what does the EPA roll out? Well, we're going to do a lot more studies. Sorry, but there's no conclusive evidence, and we have to do a lot more investigating, and sorry. While people's children have been affected, while their parents have died. I mean, the inhumanity is beyond comprehension.
Yeah, and I don't understand how they can say that any area around anywhere near St. Louis would be safe if they didn't remediate. and fix the damn problem, because, I mean, we're right on the Mississippi. It's a floodplain that goes into the Missouri River and then travels into the Mississippi River, and nobody knows that that water is radiated.
Amen to that, Rose.
Tested. It's just
unconscionable.
It's so ethnic. I mean, even if they are going to turn it into a national repository, isn't that just kind of like illogical where it is geographically?
Yes, but you know what, Rose? That's because you're logical, because you're a rational human being and you love life still. And you love your child. That's what really, like...
Yeah, I guess I haven't really been blinded by money yet. So
well, thank God. Thank God, because you know what? Like, this whole thing about money and power is antithetical to life, frankly, at this point in our consciousness, because we have got to get past it. We have big problems. And in St. Louis, you know, this is the thing, we have to keep demanding that these elected officials get off the slow train and not allow the EPA. Now, what does your boy, we only have 5 minutes left. I wish I would have thought of this question 20 minutes ago. What does your elected officials say about what the EPA said about the slow train that they're going to take? I mean, what was Lacey Clay's attitude? Is he willing to like push them and make them say, no, we're not going the slow route?
I don't believe so. I don't think he really cares at all.
Really?
I believe he's running for re-election, but I don't think, like, I haven't heard anything from him. I follow him.
Well,
maybe it's just the fact that I haven't seen it because of the algorithms of Facebook, but it's just, I don't really have a lot of faith in the local electeds. I know I should. I know they're kind of like our only hope, but personally, it just seems like they're all dirty. It seems like they're all just taking money from somebody.
Well, they might all be dirty, but that doesn't mean they can't wash their hands and start being rational human beings.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, the optimism. Gotta have that optimism.
I mean, we have to, but the thing is, the only way they're going to know that is for you guys to call them on a regular basis and push them, your local officials. And then let's call Lacey Clay's office, 202-225-2406. That's Lacey Clay's office. People need to call and say, wait a minute. We can't take the slow train. What are you going to do about it? The EPA's given us the big jerk around. What about that idea?
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? Rose, this has really been awesome for you to join me. I'm sorry I talk so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I want you back in the last hour.
I want you back, and I'm learning not to step on people's words, so I apologize for that. And I am would love to have you back and have you, give us more of your experience of living in St. Louis, because people need to hear what it's like for a young mother with a small baby. That's a lot of anxiety to live with. Your dad, your grandfather both had diabetes. Your child, you mentioned briefly, and I didn't bring it up intentionally, but she has elevated lead. We don't know where that came from. So, I mean, these are things that are hard for all of us to deal with, and I don't know how you guys, my hat's off to you, honestly. So,
thank you, Lonnie.
Well, I hope that we have you back. I'm looking forward to having actually Drew Kuhn on the show again, and I encourage everybody to put your courage feet on, and that just means do it afraid, because we have to do this. None of us have had lessons on how to stand up for ourselves. But thank you, Rose Eichholtz, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Lonnie.
And I hope to have you back. Put your courage feet on, you guys, and we will talk to you soon. Dana Durnford will hopefully be joining us on Friday. Plans of action.